Oh, that's it. That's what you want, the viral moment. This the shit. You saying LeBron is better than Michael Jordan?
What? Nah, I'm not. I just think LeBron the greatest. He did everything.
I think you delusional. There's too much delusion. Yo, we can't have top tier people being delusional.
Nah,
We already got everybody delusional out here. You're adding to the schizophrenia. You got this shit fucked up.
George Karl just crossed a line that nobody saw coming. The legendary coach didn't just question LeBron's GOAT status, he went nuclear. In a conversation that's now spiraling across the internet, Karl unleashed opinions so brutal, so personal, that even his biggest supporters are calling it too far. This isn't your typical debate anymore. This is a full-blown war of words, and what Karl said about LeBron's legacy might just burn every bridge he's ever built. The basketball world is watching, and trust me, you need to hear what went down.
You didn't have a bad game. You were scared. It was the fourth quarter of 4 consecutive games of an NBA Finals. Unquestionably the greatest player in the world went 4 games scoring 4 points or less in the fourth quarter with J.J. Barea and Jason Terry guarding him. There is no discussion here. There's no discussion here. The point that I'm making to you is this.
It started innocently enough. George Karl, the veteran coach with over 1,000 wins to his name, has never been one to shy away from controversy. But in early January 2025, something shifted. During what seemed like routine media appearances, Karl started dropping comments about LeBron James that felt different, sharper, more personal. At first, it was subtle. A raised eyebrow here, a carefully worded critique there. But anyone who's followed the NBA long enough knows that when a coach like George Karl starts circling around a topic, he's about to pounce. And pounce he did. The GOAT debate, greatest of all time, has been the most exhausting, most passionate argument in basketball history. Jordan versus LeBron, rings versus longevity, killer instinct versus all-around dominance. We've heard every angle, every statistic, every emotional plea from both sides. But what George Karl was about to say, nobody was prepared for that level of heat. Social media started buzzing first. Clips from Karl's recent interview began circulating on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. Basketball fans were doing double takes. Wait, did George Karl really just say that about LeBron? The comment sections were heating up fast. Some people were shocked, others were nodding in agreement, but everyone agreed on one thing. George Karl wasn't playing around anymore. This wasn't going to be just another hot take that fades away in 24 hours. Something about the way Karl spoke, the intensity in his voice, the specific words he chose, it all pointed to something deeper brewing beneath the surface.
What happened? George Karl stopped dancing around the subject and went straight for the throat. In the conversation that's now going viral, Karl didn't just disagree with LeBron being the GOAT, he systematically dismantled the argument piece by piece. His words cut deep, and they were clearly meant to. Karl attacked LeBron's decision-making throughout his career, questioning the very choices that LeBron's fans have celebrated for years. The super team formations, the constant team hopping, the way LeBron has orchestrated his career moves. Karl painted it all as evidence of weakness, not strength. "Look at how he's built his legacy," Karl said with visible frustration, jumping from team to team, hand-picking his teammates, stacking the deck in his favor. That's not what the greatest of all time does. That's what someone does when they're scared to fail on their own. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. But Karl wasn't finished. He went after LeBron's finals record, the infamous 4-6 that LeBron's critics love to weaponize. Karl doubled down on it, arguing that losing in the finals 6 times isn't a badge of honor, it's a scarlet letter. "We celebrate him for getting there, but we ignore how many times he came up short when it mattered most," Karl continued, his voice rising with emotion. "The greatest player ever doesn't lose that many championships, period. He compared LeBron directly to Michael Jordan, and the comparison was savage. Jordan's 6-0 finals record, Jordan's killer mentality, Jordan never needing to form super teams or run to different cities to find success. In Karl's telling, Jordan was a warrior who conquered. LeBron was a politician who calculated. The attack felt personal. This wasn't cool, detached analysis. Karl's voice carried weight, bitterness even. He spoke like a man who'd been holding these opinions back for years and finally decided he didn't care about the consequences anymore. And here's the thing that made it even more explosive. Karl questioned LeBron's leadership. He suggested that LeBron's teams succeed despite his leadership style, not because of it. That he's a passive-aggressive presence in the locker room, that he throws teammates and coaches under the bus when things go wrong. Great leaders elevate everyone around them without making it all about themselves, Karl said pointedly. When you look at LeBron's career, how many coaches has he run through? How many teammates has he blamed? That's not leadership, that's control. The basketball world collectively gasped. This was George Karl, a respected voice in the sport, not some random talking head looking for clicks. And he just said LeBron James isn't a real leader.
Some of you out there, it's a perfect opportunity to bring up the Michael Jordan, LeBron James comparison. So you know I'm here for it, right? Because you know I have these stats. I have these numbers. And you know that I wasn't going to forget to bring them out of here. Because it's important, y'all. It's important because I know some of y'all are going to talk. The obvious. You do know that MJ has 6 titles, right? And LeBron has 4. You do know that, right? You do know that MJ was undefeated in...
Within hours, the internet was on fire. LeBron's fan base, millions strong and fiercely loyal, mobilized immediately. Twitter became a war zone. Fans flooded Karl's mentions with statistics, achievements, highlight reels, anything to defend their king. George Karl never won a championship as a coach. Why is he talking? Became the rallying cry. It was brutal and effective. LeBron supporters weaponized Karl's own career against him, pointing out the irony of a ringless coach criticizing one of the most decorated players in history. The stats came flying. 4 championships, 4 finals MVPs, 10 finals appearances, all-time leading scorer, all-time playoff scorer, top 10 all-time in assists. The numbers were undeniable, and LeBron's fans made sure everyone remembered them. But Karl's supporters fired right back. They argued that he had every right to his opinion, that his decades of coaching experience gave him credibility that social media warriors don't have. They pointed to Karl's 1,175 career wins, his Coach of the Year award, his success with multiple franchises. Just because he didn't win a ring doesn't mean he doesn't know basketball, they argued. Karl's forgotten more about this game than most people will ever know. The generational divide became painfully obvious. Older fans, the ones who watched Jordan dominate the 90s, largely sided with Karl. They nodded along with his criticisms, adding their own stories about how Jordan would never have done what LeBron did, how the game was tougher back then, how players today are too soft, too buddy-buddy with opponents. Younger fans, the ones who grew up watching LeBron, saw it completely differently. To them, Karl was just another bitter old head who couldn't accept that the game had evolved, that LeBron's all-around excellence and basketball IQ represented a different kind of greatness, that forming super teams was smart, not weak. Media personalities jumped into the fray from every angle. Some were genuinely shocked by Karl's venom. Others saw it as refreshing honesty in a league where everyone's usually too careful with their words. ESPN debate shows had a field day. FS1 milked it for every second of airtime. Podcasts dedicated entire episodes to breaking down the controversy. But then the debate turned ugly. Personal attacks started flying. Karl got called bitter, jealous, washed up, irrelevant. People dug up old controversies from his coaching career, threw them back in his face. LeBron caught heat too. Fair-weather fan, stat patter, self-promoter, corporate sellout. The comment sections became toxic wastelands. What started as a basketball debate devolved into insults about age, race, intelligence, loyalty. The ugliest parts of sports fandom came crawling out of the woodwork. And through it all, one question kept surfacing. Why now? Why did George Karl choose this moment to go nuclear on LeBron? Let's be real for a second. This level of animosity doesn't come from nowhere. George Karl has been around the NBA for decades. He's coached legends, built successful teams, earned respect across the league. But there's always been something missing from his resume. That championship ring. And it eats at him. You can hear it in his voice when he talks about legacy. When you coach for 27 years, rack up over 1,000 wins, and never get that ring, there's a frustration that builds, a sense of what if that never goes away. Karl came close multiple times, but close doesn't count in the NBA. Rings are the ultimate measuring stick, and Karl knows it. So when he looks at LeBron, a player who's won 4 championships, who's been to 10 finals, who will be remembered as an all-time great, maybe there's some resentment there. Maybe Karl sees a player who had opportunities he never got, who had the talent to form super teams, while Karl had to work with what front offices gave him. There's also the matter of Karl's own coaching legacy. He's been criticized throughout his career for not winning the big one, for coming up short in the playoffs, for his teams underperforming when it mattered most. Sound familiar? It's the same criticism he's now throwing at LeBron. The psychology here is fascinating. Karl is projecting his own insecurities onto LeBron. He's taking the pain of his own failures and using LeBron as a punching bag for all that frustration. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Karl is a coach who never won a ring, criticizing a player who won 4. The optics are terrible. It looks like jealousy. It looks like bitterness. It looks like an old man yelling at clouds because the game passed him by. LeBron's supporters have hammered this point relentlessly. You're ringless. You don't get to talk. It's harsh, but it's effective. In the NBA, championships are currency, and Karl is broke compared to LeBron. Yet Karl seems completely unbothered by this criticism. If anything, he's leaning into it. He's standing by every word he said, refusing to back down even as the backlash intensifies. That takes guts, or ego, depending on how you look at it. But let's cut through the noise for a minute and ask the hard question. Is George Karl completely wrong? Here's the thing about controversy. Sometimes there's truth buried in the chaos, and if you strip away Karl's tone, if you look past the personal attacks and the bitterness, some of his points actually land. LeBron did create super teams. That's not debatable. He left his hometown team to join forces with 2 other superstars in their prime. He orchestrated another super team a few years later. He's been incredibly strategic about controlling his career path in ways that previous generations of players never could. Is that wrong? No. LeBron played within the rules of free agency and used his leverage brilliantly. But does it change the conversation about legacy? Absolutely. Karl's argument about the finals record also has merit, even if it's uncomfortable for LeBron fans to admit. 4-6 in the finals is still 6 losses on the biggest stage. The counterargument that making the finals is an achievement is valid too, but Karl isn't wrong that Jordan's 6-0 record carries a different weight. The leadership criticism is trickier. LeBron has had well-documented tensions with coaches and teammates throughout his career. There have been reports of passive-aggressive behavior, of teams walking on eggshells around him, of coaches being undermined. Are these reports all true? Who knows? But the pattern exists. What Karl said about LeBron making it about himself, that's subjective. But there's no denying that LeBron has cultivated his brand with meticulous care. He's brilliant at controlling his narrative. Is that leadership or self-promotion? Both? Neither? The Jordan comparison will never die because both sides have legitimate arguments. Jordan never lost in the finals, but LeBron faced tougher competition and carried weaker teams further. Jordan was a killer, but LeBron is more well-rounded. Jordan played in a more physical era, but LeBron has had impossible longevity. Karl chose a side in this debate, and he chose it violently. He's not interested in nuance. He wants to make it clear, LeBron is not the GOAT, and anyone who says otherwise is wrong. And here's what's fascinating. LeBron's camp has been relatively quiet. There's been no public response from LeBron himself, no statement from his representatives. Just silence. That silence speaks volumes. Either LeBron is above responding to Karl, or he's letting his career speak for itself. Or maybe, just maybe, some of Karl's words actually stung. So where does this leave George Karl? His reputation has taken a hit, no question. The backlash has been intense, and it's not going away anytime soon. People who respected him as a basketball mind are now questioning whether bitterness has clouded his judgment. Others have written him off entirely as a jealous has-been trying to stay relevant. But Karl gained something too, attention. In a media landscape where everyone's fighting for clicks and views, Karl just inserted himself into the biggest conversation in basketball. Love him or hate him, people are talking about George Karl again. The bigger picture here is why NBA legends keep attacking LeBron. Karl isn't the first, and he won't be the last. There's a pattern of older players and coaches taking shots at LeBron's legacy, questioning his greatness, comparing him unfavorably to Jordan. Part of it is generational. Every generation wants to believe their era was the best, that their heroes were superior. Admitting that LeBron might be better than Jordan feels like admitting that their time doesn't matter as much anymore. Part of it is the way LeBron's built his career. The super teams, the calculated moves, the corporate image, it rubs people the wrong way. They see it as manufactured greatness rather than earned greatness. And part of it is simple jealousy. LeBron has wealth, fame, influence, and 4 championships. He's transcended basketball in ways most players never will. That kind of success breeds resentment. What this controversy exposed goes beyond basketball. It revealed how we measure greatness, how we value different eras, how personal biases shape our opinions. It showed how toxic sports debates can become when egos and emotions take over. George Karl wanted to make a statement, and he succeeded. Whether that statement helps or hurts his legacy is still being written. But here's the question that's tearing the internet apart right now, and honestly, it's the one nobody wants to answer honestly. Is George Karl a bitter coach who never got his ring, taking cheap shots at a player who achieved what he couldn't? Or is he the only one with the guts to say what the old guard really thinks about LeBron's manufactured legacy? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. Team Karl or Team LeBron? And be real with it. If you want more deep dives into the drama and controversies the mainstream media won't touch, smash that subscribe button right now. We're pulling back the curtain on everything the NBA doesn't want you to see. More heat is coming, and you don't want to miss it.